overcome these security concerns, technology leaders need the next generation of security innovations. To throw more light on these next generation of security innovations, may I invite Mr. Ravinder Singh to give his presentation on the evolving security landscape. Are you ready? Mr. Ravinder Singh is working with Juniper Networks as Director Sales. He is responsible for driving countrywide business for government and defense segments. Ravinder is with Juniper for more than 3 years. He has an industry experience of around 17 years, majority of which he has spent in Nortel, now Avaya, and Wipro Infotech. He is credited to grow the business exponentially across the business segments in these companies. He is specifically known for his achievements in government and defense verticals. So without any more delay, I would request Mr. Ravinder Singh to please come on the stage. Over to you. Can we get that video clip, please?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the patience, especially the people who have come on time at 9:30. In Delhi, it's always a challenge, starting the show on time. I think it's okay now. Good morning, everybody. So this session, worldwide, one change that we have seen whenever we do. Can you hear me? In the end? Let me repeat the greetings part at least. Good morning, everybody. And I really, on behalf of my team, let me welcome each one of you to the full day event of security. Essentially, why this topic is dear to me and dear to all of us. Not just that Juniper is strong in security. The reasons for how it has evolved over time and the kind of dialogue which is happening with the customers worldwide. We realize that, we have gone past the era where we make products or the company make products and come to the customers and say, this is the product you can buy. We are in the era of platform where the customer is part of it, or should be part of it, if we really have to evolve a solution to his real problems. Otherwise, the challenge of a product or a promises not addressing the reality of the life will always be there, as we have seen happen. Security is a key area, especially in my intro they mentioned about the defense part of it. I spent a good amount of time of my career, handling the defense segments. Courtesy that the understanding how exactly the security, psyche works in defense and how it is applied, outside in the world. So the boundaries are kind of diminishing now, the way the things are seen. So the security is one field where the vendor perspective, if you see, or if you see from the customer perspective, things are not just growing or things are not just being discussed a lot. There is a huge change happening in this industry. From now on, you will see the industry will go in a completely different direction. Right? The way the customer sees this, it will go in a huge, which you can't even imagine. Not just in terms of revenue growth, but in terms of the way the entire thing is seen. Right from the person who is managing it to the CEO who is overseeing it. As we know, the challenges of the CIOs typically has been to get the budgets in what they wish for, right, to deploy in their network. Even if they're convinced, there's always the challenge from the finance folks, from the CEO and the CFOs, right? Now that perspective is changing with the incidences that I'll talk about, and everybody's paranoid. Everybody wants to do something. And are there solutions? Are there foolproof solutions? And is there a way that things can be mitigated? Also, one change I've seen is that security solutions now in the digital world are imitating the real life solutions. The real life defending strategies adopted by the people in the various verticals, various domains. Like wars have been fought historically by the various means of deploying some security strategies. Same way, you find the organizations or people safeguarding themselves when the civil war happens, and how exactly police works, how exactly a commander thinks in a war. Now, those psyche are coming into play when the companies are devising the solution, for the corporate world. So we'll just talk about all these things, and with this you will have a very enriching session. What we have packaged with the experts called in from outside, who have spent considerable time with these domain specialists, from the finance side and from the defense side of it. So let me move on with this. Now, this is evolution, not just security, but of the business, but of the overall way we operate, in the world today. Whether we see the corporations being built, whether we see the business models being devised. Earlier the psyche, as I have grown in my career, similarly like yourself. We all thought about security as a perimeter security. You build a strong, huge castle with a great firewall, and then IPS, and then many other things, and you feel secure, right? It was like castle in the old world, where you create big walls, big boundaries, and once you are inside, you feel secure. That was the psyche, and the psyche is predominant in the mind still. Now, what is forcing the entire thing to change? And then what happened? Then we started building the applications as well, and the application was itself a castle in itself. We surrounded the application with certain zoning, with the physical demarcation, with the certain solutions which kind of safeguard the application. But still, it was a mini castle. So initially we found one castle, then we found multiple castles in a castle, and those kind of models. Then what happened today? The change scenario is completely, opposite of the old model. The practical reality is today that any business, cannot scale up. See the scale of growing or growth in the companies like Facebook, companies like Google, companies like any company you see. The scale of going up and going down has become really fast. And the reason for that is the ability of a company to reach out and invite the user to use the products. With that scaling model, there is a huge premium on how exactly you can attract the customer in terms of using your website, for example, which is one of the marketing tools and one of the usage tools, one of the e-commerce tools. You do everything to get the customer on the site and do the transaction. Now, that's where it's like similar to a hotel model, wherein you are encouraged to use the property, you go inside, and the various way the security and safeguarding is taken care. Now, the models, what we will discuss, similar to these models, which basically puts the premium on the excellent customer satisfaction from the time the customer wants to travel and comes to your hotel. At that time, how exactly you engage, how exactly you give him a world-class experience in terms of smoothness of operation, smoothness the way we can use service, and in the best possible way, without affecting the experience, we can safeguard the entire transaction. Now, that model is completely opposite of the castle model, right? So, we will talk about this, that how this change of the model has impacted. So, the cloud is similar to the hotel model, where you are inviting the customers to use the applications. And when this change has happened, and our psyche being, in terms of the castle kind of model, now that has affected. In the last couple of years, we have seen the effects of this difference in the psyche of addressing the problem. Right? We still try to address the problem by buying bigger firewalls, faster firewalls, much more functionality-based firewalls, and IPSs and advanced signatures, those kind of things. But that does not address the problem. I read a very good line, which we all understand, that it is very difficult, to beat a guy, who gets up in the morning, with a fanatic vision of, making an impact in the world, in a negative way, of course. It is very difficult to beat him, because when in the world today, when you can easily do social engineering, social connectedness, such kind of guys are many. There is the issue of employment, across the globe there is the issue of education, right? Only some percentage of the people gets a premium. So these guys from the beginning, get focused on targeting doing this thing, because till the world becomes totally secure, or go to closer to that reality, they know they can make $1 million. I'll cover example how in the world many villages and colonies are coming up, where together they have huge internet cafes, and how they are making money. Because today the user is vulnerable. Even people like us, many times our behavior, our psyche is so ingrained that we do mistakes. Leave aside the common man, right? But that is one mistake in terms of the personal life. But the moment the same thing happens for a corporate, what can happen into the various corporations. So, and attackers have also profiled. So one thing which has not changed, is the changing the psyche of the user, or the speed at which a user need to change to safeguard against the growth of the hackers. So the hackers come from the various categories. One is state sponsored. You would be surprised to know that there are countries, or huge countries, whose constitution permits its citizens to do the theft, or any kind of theft, for the sake of the country. They can do anything anywhere in the world, come back to the country, and they'll be safeguarded, the government protection, right, on the name of whatever growth, or so to say the loyalty. So state sponsors them, making them anonymous, making them work behind the curtains, and do everything for the state. That is one part. Second part is for a cause, whatever cause. Today you see the real world scenarios for the various causes things are happening. These causes, one is the means of the physical destruction, second is the means of e-destruction. Once, I have something against you and I have a negative mindset, I will try to put a maximum damage in the easiest way. If you create more boundaries physically, I will go the e-way, the digital way. And so we'll cover some examples here as well. And there are the individuals, the students, the young lads who want to just for the kick of it, wants to do that. And there are people who want to exploit such people. After forming the group, it is very easy to attract. They need some small money and they can do all the crimes. In a similar fashion, in the real world, you see people doing bigger crimes for the small motivations. The same thing happens in the e-world as well. These are some of the examples that we picked up. Let me talk about the spammers attack. In this is the on the scale, attack happened on the biggest scale ever. Wherein there is a company called Spammers. This company is known for identifying the spam sources and blacklisting them, and then selling the names of these users to the service providers so that those can be blacklisted. So these guys once blacklisted a company called Cyberbunker, right? And Cyberbunker is the company who was dubiously known for having the controversial web hosting sites and the data centers. So these guys blacklisted them, and those guys, waged the war against these guys. They decided, okay, we will get spammers down. So they started DDoS attacks, and then spammers attack a company called, say, Cyberworld, to kind of safeguard them. So together, they were very smart people. So the DDoS attacks kept increasing, and spammers and Cyberworld, what they did, they distributed all the attacks on the various data centers. So they kept scaling, even the attacks kept scaling. Now, and then these guys realized that they cannot bring the spammers down, right? Then what they did, these guys, Cyberbunker guys, went against the suppliers of Cyberworld. They went against service providers of the Cyberworld, got through, hacked the Cyberworld guys, and then used the weakness of the DNS. There's a weakness in the DNS system that we all know, wherein you can open decoding of the DNS. So they kind of hacked the IP address of the users, spoofed that, and from the resolution perspective, they scaled the DDoS attack has these guys know that DDoS attack has a limitation of say 100 GB per second. It can't scale beyond that. That was a known concept so far till last year. Now these guys were working on the assumption and making the strategies that that's the way we're going to handle it. They cannot scale beyond it, and they had a foolproof plan for that. Now, but the DNS resolving mechanism are linked to most of service providers on 300 gig bandwidth or more. Now these guys used that route and hacked many of the computers and used the DNS weakness and brought down the entire site of Cyberworld. And then after that, the spammers and all. And the entire thing, this happened for at least 3 to 6 months. And it was clearly said that it had a potential of bringing down the entire internet, right? So this is one of the examples where most of the experts said that still, we are far away from building anything foolproof. So we are not, now the psyche of achieving something which is a 0-day foolproof is not there, or should not be there. We should realize that, the people are growing into, and they are well funded, as we were talking. So we need to find strategies to take care of that. How do we take care? How does the army take care? In spite of all the defenses, how exactly defense, when they fight the war, what do they do, right? So these examples of espionage, hacktivist, the new term, and cyber criminals. This is what I was talking. This is a village in Romania, and I was reading a report on this. You land at the airport and you move inside the city. What you see are all top class, cars, BMW, say a 7 Series. Any car segment, you see only the top class. You don't see the lower segment. All top gadgets, everything top class of the world you will see in the city, right? And you see the young lads of 20 something driving these cars, right? So the reporter was curious that are they into big jobs or something? So then finally he realized after a week that all these are hackers. All these are hackers, and they have been successful enough to earn big money this way, and they decided this is the only way they're going to work. And the entire colony has got together, and everybody's aspiration is to become a hacker and make a big difference in terms of money and fast. Because they know people are not changing. People are still there. So they, whether it's a credit card theft or it's an online banking theft or internet transaction, whichever. And so this is one example which I was mentioning earlier. So this is a survey that we did in terms of every company today, security company is doing this survey. And the reason for this survey is not just a marketing to promote the product. The reason for this survey is to know the behavior of how does the user think, how does the administrator think, how do the people think, across the verticals, across the company sizes. So clearly, there is a huge dissatisfaction as far as the firewalls are concerned. The firewalls have scaled and become really the next generation firewall, so to speak. But there's a dissatisfaction, really, in terms of deployment, in terms of false positives, in terms of how they are able to detect the attacks. And these are expensive firewalls. And essentially, this is still all about blocking the IP address, blocking the port numbers, blocking the unauthorized application access, basically authorizing a particular user to do certain things. Essentially all about that at the root level. And the most important is, still the psyche, the business is the key focus. CIO or the CEO, the pressure is to scale faster because the competition is doing the same thing. And at the compromise of security as well. Sometimes even the CISO gets unhappy in the various discussions that I have proposed a plan, but I'm not getting clearance for that. So and till the time some breach happens, these guys will not listen. As we say that government will not move till the time another attack happens. It is similar to that. Attack happens, the proposal gets cleared. That kind of cynicism was also there in the talk. So, and what the marketing does is that they remove the blocking list based on the kind of responses what they're expecting, right? So essentially, there is some feeling that technology is there, but technology is essentially a blocking technology. Because the dealer can come on some other port number. There are many open port numbers, and people are designing for security purpose an application on a different port number, which is not a known port number. Now, in that scenario, it gets blocked, and the marketing guy says, for this period of time, let's open everything so that we get the access, and later on we can secure it, or whatever. So this is the response that we got, and the feeling of being secure, in terms of grading, got a very low grading till 4.7. Overall, it was a very extensive survey. And no wonder, and this is a published data, that 2 data centers breaches in the past 12 months. So what we realize is that in addition to the promise of the product, it is important the promise of the experience. As we talked about the hotel, the focus is the state-of-art experience given to the user. Same here, the focus is state-of-art experience given to the marketing, the way they have designed. How can we have a marriage of these two things? As we know, security is all about people, process, technologies, and the technologies comes in the last, right? It is the people who is the first in that order. Then you have processes, and then of course technologies, right? And the virus, thing we know always. there's always a lagging. Virus guys are always ahead, and antivirus guys are always catching up. So this is again a catching up mode. So there's a clear challenge from the customer side that the vendors are promising a lot in the security, but essential result, what they want to look at is not there. There's a huge dissatisfaction, right? And there's a constant complaint that whatever the security company comes with, we are buying it for the compliance sake many a times, that I want to feel secure that I have bought everything what is there in the market, but still my problem is not solved. So these are all things what we discussed. So at Juniper, in the last 2 years, we, as you know, the Juniper has been a leading company in security for quite long. We took over NetScreen, and after that, we modified NetScreen on Junos. And our focus has been, a secure product from the beginning, whether it's a routing, switching, or essentially a firewall. So the perspective that we have designed that, let's see the real world. Let's see how exactly in the real world the security aspect are taken care of. So if you study really the wars which has happened, the great wars, and how in many wars the enemy or people have taken the tactical advantage by doing certain things. So the deceive part comes the foremost. The deceive is a very important strategy by the army. Anybody, let us deceive the army so that they can waste energy and resources on certain things. And as a countermeasure, you can take some actions which will result in taking a beneficial position in the short term, right? So there are huge examples on the internet when you see how the various wars are won using the deception technologies. Deception way actually. And then what we have done, we have combined those factors and we have combined the tracking part of it. The tracking means so far, things we are identifying the IP address. Today there are 200 parameters. The moment you log, moment you interact, there is a cookie model by which anybody can access the information, from the PC. And so when a hacker comes in, it is this solution basically can give you a flexibility of measuring the various parameters, starting from the browser versions to time zone, fonts, how exactly every hacker has a personalized way of keeping the PC. So like a fingerprint, you identify a user. Same way, a hacker profile over time, gets clearly defined. Like police, for example, they identify, the culprits. Whenever something happens, they realize, okay, this is the pattern of that group, right? Whenever in some area, something happens, they know that this can be done possibly by that group. So they have the pattern in mind. Similar way, I think these technologies are moving into that direction, that creating a profile of the users, creating the database, and collaborating among all the users on all the technology companies, so that nobody is reinventing the wheel so far which was happening. And there was no clear database of reference that this kind of tracking of the user can be matched and we can know something that this is dangerous transaction happening at the moment. And then, things like the DDoS, which is the topmost concern for most of the users, and there is an ongoing application security that a user needs. Right? The web application is key, database security is key, and so DDoS is the biggest threat. And the DDoS, the way it is coming up, is into a varied form and a changing form always. So on the real-time pattern, the moment we do this, so the way this happens, this is a real-time tackling of a hacker, in the sense that when a hacker comes to your site first, typically when you see a colony, a thief, you get into his mind when he scans the entire area. Initially the scanning happens. They try to see the most vulnerable house, for example. Where exactly the lock is there, where they try to get the information from the security guards. Exactly similar way the hacker works. Hacker is trying to see which site is vulnerable. So what this tool does is that it gives some fake identity. Say that this site is vulnerable, but it's actually not. The moment the request goes to the hacker, it goes with a deliberately planted certain openness, in the responses. And when he captures those vulnerabilities, then you give more to him, you give more feed to him. So that fake engagements, you drag it for a long time, and in the meantime, you capture the entire information about the hacker, and you keep a database. Now, when you keep a database, at that time, that correlation happens with the existing databases. So you know that a hacker is trying to do something. And at that time, you put in experts and try to analyze and try to engage them. Right? So this is a real time. Right? Because this is clear that whatever you do, the attacks can't be prevented. But the hackers are saying, like we are identifying the user, at the user side of it, organization side of it, at the hacker side of it, we are trying to profile them. So profiling of a user so that the access can be granted securely. Profiling of a hacker so that the entire expertise of the organization can be engaged, with them and make sure that they don't do the damage or they limit the damage. So that's what the whole broad idea is, and our experts are there actually who will go in detail about these technologies, and I think it's a beautiful way, which is kind of exact replica of the way security is handled in the outside world. You see the way NIA works, you see the way the army works, or similar technologies we have used to give an online protection package, so that it's a collaborative discussion with the customer, and these discussions are very genuine, that how exactly the problems can be addressed, to what level it can be addressed, so that the people, processes, and the technologies can be used, and a strong chain can be formed with the equal strength. So I think with this, with more details, I will hand over to my team, who would go into detail of these effects. Thank you so much.
The world's first web intrusion deception system that detects, tracks, profiles, and prevents hackers, all in real time. To better understand how Junos Web App Secure works, think of it as a control room monitoring intrusions into your organization's web applications. Thanks to detection points inserted in web application code, this control room can detect a hacker before he establishes an attack vector. The attack is thwarted, and the attacker's IP address is captured. But only Junos Web App Secure takes that capture several steps further, gathering 200 distinctive attributes to create a one-of-a-kind fingerprint of that attacker. A fingerprint just not possible using traditional IP address-based security approaches. The attacker's fingerprint is assigned a name and a threat level based on his intent and skill. The attacker's fingerprint is uploaded into the Junos Spotlight Secure database and immediately shared with other subscribers worldwide, so that wherever the hacker chooses to attack next, his fingerprint is detected, his device identified, and his malicious intent stopped dead in its tracks. When the attacker tries to outsmart Junos Web App Secure by breaking out the IP shuffle, he quickly discovers that no matter how many times he changes his IP address, his fingerprint sticks with him, ensuring that every attack meets the same result. Device detected, identity revealed, attack thwarted. Detect locally, protect globally. This is a giant leap forward in the world of network security. Take that leap today with Junos Web App Secure and the first of its kind security intelligence service, Junos Spotlight Secure.
Thank you, Ravinder, for a very insightful presentation.